This episode is brought to you by Mubi, a global streaming service dedicated to elevating great cinema. Starting today, you can catch the streaming premiere of The Substance. Demi Moore delivers a career-best performance as an A-lister past her prime, transformed by a mysterious drug into a gorgeous 20-something played by Margaret Qualley. It's a deliriously entertaining and spine-tingling masterpiece, and you can start streaming The Substance and more for 30 days free at Mubi.com/CityCast. Time is running out to cast your vote in Portland's first ranked choice elections. And no pressure, but this might be one of our most consequential local elections in years, if not decades. So if you need help navigating your ballot or learning more about who's on it, City Club of Portland has you covered. Visit pdxcityclub.org to watch debates on top races like Portland Mayor and Multnomah County Commissioner. You can also read interviews with over 50 candidates for Portland City Council. While you're there, consider supporting a stronger democracy by becoming a City Club member. That's pdxcityclub.org for everything you need to make an informed vote by 8 p.m. on November 5th. After a year of intense campaigns, countless candidates, and more podcast episodes than we can count, Election Day is finally here. So today on CityCast Portland, we're bringing you a local election preview by going over some of the bigger races and looking into what we can expect, like how soon we might actually have results. And joining me to help make sense of it all is KBOO News Director Althea Billings. We also have a special guest to help us make some predictions. It's Tuesday, November 5th. I'm Claudia Meza, and this is what Portland's talking about. Let's take a look at the campaign season we've just gone through. There's been a huge amount of activity with over 100 candidates fighting for attention. But there's also been a lot of jitters and uncertainty, culminating in the fires of local ballot boxes making national news last week. Like, what has stuck out to you the most over the course of this campaign?
With that preface, it feels like I should get really fired up about the ballot box thing. But one of the things that really stuck out to me with this many candidates is they're coalescing around certain common issues in a way that I don't think we've seen in other campaigns. I think there may actually be a critical mass of candidates supporting things like expanding Portland Street Response, taking action on the critical energy infrastructure hub, maybe even throwing Zenith in there as things that folks are really motivated towards and finding common agreement around. I think also, the advocates in those spaces I would argue, have been pretty successful in pushing that to something that candidates want to be able to speak to and move the needle on those issues. I've also heard desire for district offices and staff to support more constituent work that folks have been pushing as well. And I think it's the tenor of the campaign is so, especially for city council, is so much different than we've had in years past. People have been so nice to each other.
Yeah, you're talking about the city council candidates and how they've been very supportive of each other's campaigns.
Well, I guess rhetorically they're supportive of each other's campaigns. Some of them financially supportive of each other's campaigns.
A little too supportive sometimes, I guess.
That's notable too. But yeah, they're being really nice to each other. They're talking more about finding common ground. I think sometimes that makes them difficult to differentiate in some ways. Like, why do I like you more than this other person that you 75% agree with? And, I think there's also a lot of things that we're seeing as a result of so many folks who are new to politics jumping in at this moment. And what I've heard from candidates is how overwhelming the process is. And this is really like forging new territory. Whose surveys did they get a chance to respond to? And did they go after endorsements? Did they participate in small donor elections? It's not clear what a winning strategy looks like for Portland. So you saw people taking a lot of different tacks to try to get the word out there and figure out what is actually going to be compelling to people.
The one thing that has stuck out to me is how united, oddly, Portland is if you throw in more voices. Because normally it's 3 or 4 people that we're looking into. and we tend to vote for them because they have slightly polarizing opinions.
Right.
They do stand out. But the more Portlanders you put in, it evens out in a sense. Like, we're just like, no, we care about these very basic things. Coming from all the neighborhoods, this is the top stuff. And all those concerns are rising to the top. And I find that interesting and also almost comforting,
Yeah.
Because when you look at national politics, it feels so polarizing. But here in Portland, it just feels like we're all on the same page. We're just trying to find the people to complete that job,
I would agree with you. I definitely find local politics to be a salve in that regard. And particularly with this election, because we're in a situation where there's opportunity for multiple people to succeed in the same race. There's people who can, may come from very different ideological backgrounds. I mean, within the scope of Portland politics, different ideological backgrounds who find commonality or who are really interested in somebody else's area of expertise. The interviews that we've done have kind of thrown together a random mash of candidates. So it's interesting to see where people really start to vibe with each other if they haven't met before that moment, or they find that they're really aligned on particular issues and what they think the city should be doing about it.
Right. Well, one thing that has looked different from other elections is the voter turnout, because there are more than a handful of people who've waited until the very last minute to fill out their ballots. I don't know if it's because they're intimidated, because of ranked choice, or because there's just so many candidates to go through. But as of October 31st, some unofficial numbers from the Secretary of State showed just 26.2% of Multnomah County voters had returned their ballots. For comparison, that same day in 2020 had roughly 68.31% already turned in. So what would be their options now to get their ballots in safely?
Safely is a key word. I was definitely thinking about that last week when I turned mine in. Drop boxes are open until 8 p.m. tonight, and folks can still put their ballot in the mail as well, as long as it gets postmarked today. If it were me, I would go Dropbox. I think that's a safer bet. I put mine in the one outside the elections office last week during daylight hours, as was what the county elections officials, the ones in Clark County, were saying, drop it off during the day. Mm-hmm. It'll be cool. And, the county has talked about how they've beefed up security after this ballot box bombing attempt. I would also recommend signing up for the Track My Ballot feature if you haven't already. It tells you when your ballot is on the way. It tells you when your ballot has been accepted and when it's been counted, which has been helpful, to reassure that I didn't just put an envelope to nowhere in that box. But also, in counties like Clark County, in Washington, and Coos County, which had some ballot difficulties, that tracking feature helps you realize, hey, I turned it in, haven't heard anything from you guys. What's going on over there?
Mm-hmm. I also have that option turned on, and it is really nice.
It is nice.
It's great.
Yeah. And I mean, with this whole bombing situation, it's definitely freaky, but it was a good opportunity to learn some of the preparations that elections officials have been working on for the past 4 years, if not longer, with these, fire suppression and security and the way that they look at this kind of stuff to try to make sure people do actually get to vote without having their ballot burned, which is bad. I'll say it.
Althea, you're so brave.
Thank you. Yeah.
Oh my God, I didn't think anyone was going to say it.
Too many people have been quiet on this issue.
Well, we're probably not going to know who won all the local races before we go to bed tonight, because there are just going to be so many last-minute ballot drop-offs, like we mentioned. And then there's also just the ranked choice tabulation. So what do we know about when the results are coming out?
Yeah, results are going to be an extra slow roll this year. I think in Oregon, we're used to that a little bit because the past election, maybe 2 elections, we've had the new rule where you can postmark it on election day. It's not that it has to be received in the mail by election day. So that kind of pushes some votes further out, like a week until it could get to the elections office. Wow. But with ranked choice voting as well, we certainly won't have any final results until all of those ballots are counted, and that takes time, right? Which is one of the things that people will say, oh, we shouldn't do ranked choice voting. It's hard to find out what's going on. But the cool thing is that the county can run the rounds of counting with however many ballots they have. So, election night, we will be able to say after 8 o'clock that certain candidates are leading the race, but those final results are going to be a little further down the line once things get certified. So we're probably not going to know for a few days on some of the big things, and definitely the Portland races will be a little further out. We'll have some information, but not all of it.
Gotcha. Okay, well, let's take a quick break here, and when we return, we're consulting a well-known soothsayer for some predictions. Experience art, nature, and science like you've never seen before at Exquisite Creatures Revealed, the newest exhibit from Christopher Marley, on view now at the Oregon Museum of Science and Industry. Exquisite Creatures Revealed features over 10,000 rare birds, reptiles, insects, and other real specimens from around the world in stunning detail. Among them include the first preserved giant corpse flower, an Amazonian stingray, and a 10-foot-long Japanese spider crab. I've never even 10 feet long. That's too long. Which, by the way, were all collected or reclaimed by the artist through sustainable means. Exquisite Creatures Revealed is open now. Get tickets at omsi.edu. That's omsi.edu. Paint Care is all about keeping it simple for Oregonians. They make recycling leftover paint, stain, and varnish easy with convenient drop-off locations like your local paint or hardware store. Each new paint project is an opportunity to reduce waste, and Paint Care has 3 simple rules for painting smarter. 1, you buy the right amount of paint for the job. 2, you use up leftover paint. And 3, recycle the rest. Visit paintcare.org/3simplerules to get tips on how to buy the right amount of paint, explore ideas for DIY projects for how to use up that leftover paint, and to look up your nearest drop-off site. That's paintcare.org/3simplerules.
CityCast Portland is brought to you by Diamore Law Group. Let's face it, sometimes bad stuff happens. A serious injury, a catastrophic accident, or even a wrongful death. It can turn your world upside down. When it does, you deserve unwavering support from a dedicated team. Yep, you need a lawyer. Diamore Law Group has over 30 years of experience protecting the rights of Oregonians. Their team of skilled attorneys, led by distinguished trial attorney Tom Diamore, will work tirelessly to make sure your voice is heard and your rights are protected. Here's what one of his clients said. Tom fights for his clients from the first day they meet him through the last day of trial. If you or a loved one needs help holding those responsible for your injuries accountable, contact Diamore Law Group at 503-222-6333 or visit diamorelaw.com to schedule a free consultation. They are committed to fighting for the justice and compensation you deserve right here in Portland.
Well, should we do a virtual Magic 8-Ball prediction breakdown for the major races?
Yeah, let's do it.
It'll satiate our listeners' needs for results and our own, and I think that it might also help us process some feelings, you know?
I trust the Magic 8-Ball. I've never been steered wrong. If anything, it says ask me later.
All right. Well, let's go to the mayoral race. I feel like the biggest question that people want to know is if Rene Gonzalez will win. And that's his supporters and his non-supporters. So let's ask.
Is that what they're calling them?
Yeah, the non-supporters. So I'm going to put in the question here. Will Rene Gonzalez win the Portland mayoral race? I am typing this into the Magic 8-Ball, which is, by the way, it's a website.
Not sponsored.
It's not sponsored, yeah. Okay, I'm clicking Shake 8-Ball.
Okay.
And it says, outlook not so good.
Ooh. Uh-oh.
Okay. This is an 8-Ball speaking. This isn't Althea or Claudia predicting.
Yeah.
Okay. Now, let's look at the county commissioner race because I feel like that was really close and also heated. Should we just ask, will Sam Adams win the county commission seat in District 2?
Yeah. Well, say Multnomah County, because what if he moves in 4 years and runs for a different seat? And it was thinking
you're
of
so
that.
Smart. Multnomah County, District 2. Very specific. Okay, here we go. Will Sam Adams win the county commission seat in Multnomah County, District 2? Yes.
Whoa.
That's what the Magic 8-Ball says.
Whoa.
Oh my God. Okay.
Dang.
Whew.
Okay.
All right. Last one. This
Last
is
one?
just one that I'm personally curious about. Will Commissioner Carmen Rubio get any more parking tickets between now and the election results? Ready?
Yeah.
Ooh, concentrate and ask again.
Oh, okay. Sorry. I was thinking about something else.
I
That's my
could
bad.
tell. I could tell. You were looking at your hands. Okay, let's try this again. It says ask again later. Holy moly, we're stumping the 8 ball.
Okay, here's my theory.
Okay.
Let me make some meaning out of this, which is we don't know when the results are going to come out.
Oh.
So if it's like, if maybe say December 2nd, which is when the results are certified.
Okay, between now and December 2nd. God, you're so smart. It's like you've done this before.
This is what it is to be a journalist, by the way.
2020.
You got to ask the right
Okay.
questions.
December 2nd.
Okay, and I'm concentrating.
Will Commissioner Carmen Rubio get any more parking tickets between now and December 2nd, 2024? Shakes for a good long time, by the way. It's like still shaking. Better not tell you now. Man, it wants us to leave us alone. I don't know. I think we're just going to leave this one alone. Like, this one is just not.
There's a new secret kind of parking ticket that she's going to get that we don't know about yet.
Oh my God. Carmen Rubio, stay off the road. We don't know what's happening here. Well, I want to go through a few of the biggest local races and hear what you're going to be watching for aside from the results. You know, like how Lee Vostis votes get sorted, or if the Gonzales don't rank the vote movement had any effect, that kind of thing, you know? So let's start with the mayor races. What are you watching for there?
Definitely what you were saying. Does the Don't Rank Renee strategy pan out? And something I'll be really interested to see is, you know, the order in which candidates are eliminated in these rounds of counting and where there's cross support between candidates. And is there a possibility of somebody who's sort of a little further down in the general popularity, like MAPS or Viva, taking it home? You know, it's in the world of possibility that could happen. So I'm curious to see how that one goes. I don't have a strong prediction. I do think that the hope of the Don't Rank Renee system is that, you know, if he doesn't win outright with first choice votes, then there may not be a path to the mayor's office for him. So I'm curious to see if that pans out.
Yeah. Well, what about the city council races? Do we have any idea who's going to win?
The only one that I would hazard a guess that is as close to a lock as we've got is Candace Avalos.
Why?
She was endorsed by all 4 regional papers.
So you think that'll... Yeah, it's true. Whenever I'm like, who am I going to vote for? And I don't have a strong opinion, I do look at all the endorsements.
Well, especially because that's the Oregonian, Willamette Week, the Mercury, and the Scanner, I think.
Wow.
Those serve different populations. So to garner support that, hey, this person is legit, this person's a leader, that's interesting. I suspect that's the only one that I can really hazard a guess, though, because it's hard to tell. We don't even really have a lot of great barometers. But in the results that we'll get tonight, I'm very curious to see, you know, what these leading candidates that show up, what does that tell us about what matters to folks in the individual districts? Like, is it environmental people that are coming to the top with the early votes? Is it transportation people? Is it law and order people? I kind of see there being sort of 3 camps of folks, you know, progressives, middle of the road, and more law and order focused candidates. Some of all of those will probably make it to council, but, you know, the nuance of who and why, and as the rounds go, like where their support came from, where there's cross support between different candidates, that will be really, really interesting to see. And, you know, the data nerds will be feasting on that one.
I do wonder how many bans will come out of this because, like we discussed, I feel like a lot of city council candidates ended up like broing out with each other and hanging out.
Yeah.
You know, and I just wonder if like what's going to happen with that, if the friendships will continue.
Yeah, definitely. Well, and as it's gotten later and later in the campaign, they start talking about the after.
Yeah.
Well, you know, after if I don't win, I'll be going back to doing this. Or if once this is all over, let's go get a beer.
Yeah.
You know, but I would love the next great band we met running for city council. That's a new take.
I feel like Portland needs it right now. All right. Well, what about ballot measures? What are you keeping an eye on there?
I think if there's anything that I think there's a good chance of us actually knowing the results on election night, it would be the results of those statewide ballot measures. Yeah. The polling that's out there indicates that 115, 116, 117, and 119 are pretty likely to pass. 118 is more negotiable there, but I think the last polls I saw did seem negative on that point.
And 118, can we do a brief explainer for those who may not remember?
Yes. So Measure 118 is the Oregon rebate measure, which would restructure some corporate taxes to give every Oregonian $1,650 a year.
And that's looking negative.
That one, there's a lot of people, some unlikely bedfellows have united against it. So when you have big business lobbies and progressive tax advocates on the same page that something is not a good idea, that's something that can have some influence. And we've also seen some labor unions walk back their support recently.
Yeah.
I think it's also interesting to pull out the measures like 115 and 116. So that's the one to impeach statewide elected officials and the one to create an independent salary commission for our legislators. Interesting to pull those out and how that relates to and maybe even concludes the Shemia Fagan scandal saga in the Secretary of State's office.
Right. Because, I mean, you're basically saying those two gained a lot of support because of that scandal. Because, you know, had she not resigned, there was just no way to impeach her.
There was no way to impeach her. And one of the rationales that she gave for taking that consulting contract was that the Secretary of State job didn't pay her enough.
Well, the county commissioner race, are you looking at anything there? We're talking specifically about District 2, but I know there's also a very close county commissioner race in District 4.
Yeah, I mean, I think the question there is, will the Multnomah County Commission be taking more of a rightward swing with some of these candidates? And a question that I have, which was, I guess, answered by the 8-ball, do people still like Sam Adams after everything that he's done? I mean, it's...
Well, Magic 8-balls do, it seems. I mean...
Magic... Put that on a campaign poster. Magic 8-balls... 1 out of 1 Magic 8-balls agree. This guy should be our county commissioner.
1 out of 1. Yeah. Yeah, you know, I wonder that too, because he has a very sordid past.
Yeah.
And I don't know if he just comes in at the right time when people have forgotten.
Maybe they're thinking of the beer.
The beer?
The beer.
Oh, Sam Adams. Oh, you're thinking they're like, oh, I love that beer. Yeah. You think that's how people are voting?
I think the historical figure, isn't he like the king of second chances? Something like that.
I don't know.
Somebody said that, and I thought they were talking about our Sam Adams. And I was like, dang, you're kind of right. He does get a lot of second chances around here.
It's true. I wonder why. Do you think it's the name or because he's a white man? I don't know.
He looks like every elected official we've ever had. He does fall into that camp.
It's true. All right. Well, finally, give me one pie in the sky prediction for what's going to happen tonight.
Yeah, my pie in the sky prediction is that a critical mass of Portlanders will conduct a write-in campaign to revert to our old system of government before the new one even starts next year. You know, we're a very impatient people, Portlanders. And here's my thing. Why hasn't it fixed it already?
So if you think people have, since we voted back in 2022 for it, that people are just like, hey, this new form of government that hasn't come in yet, but I'm assuming it already has.
It's a failure.
It's a failure. It's not working. Oh my God.
Yes, I ranked candidates, but I also ranked number 1, go back to the old system that everybody hated, because at least we knew what would happen.
Oh my God. Okay, so that is your one pie in the sky. John, I'm speaking to my executive producer now in the sky. If you happen to have one, I will say it out loud for you.
Am I being courted into the conversation?
Yeah.
Yeah, my guess is that the write-in campaign is going to take a different tack, Althea, and that we're actually going to write in Ted Wheeler, and he is going to be the 3rd-term mayor of Portland.
4 more years. 4 more years.
Yeah, and in my ridiculous pie in the sky prediction is that he is going to accept.
Twist my arm.
Because there's no way that man is coming back, no matter how much we beg him. Even if, like, that was the will of the people, that dude is done.
You don't think he's sitting out till the governor's race?
I don't see it, but it could just be that he needs some time away, you know?
Sure.
No matter what you think of him, he has been kind of a punching bag for a handful of years now. And I can only imagine that weighs very heavy on anyone's, you know, day to day and their psyche. I mean, I know he seems like a strong guy and like he's just like whatever, but like there's no way he's just like, yeah, everything's cool. You know, we're all great.
4 more years. 4 more years of tormenting Ted Wheeler, this town.
Poor guy. Oh, man.
I don't want to be mayor. I'm surprised other people do.
I know. Well, Althea, we're definitely going to check back in with you. And thanks a lot for hanging out with me.
Thanks for having me.
Even though we're expecting it's going to take a few days to get definitive results, be sure to tune in first thing tomorrow morning for a special episode of CityCast Portland with our first impressions of how the big races are shaping up after the polls close on election night. Then we'll be digging deeper into the results this Friday on our weekly news roundup. Well, that's all for today here on CityCast Portland. Thanks so much for listening. We'll be back tomorrow morning with more from around the city. Until then, see you at Slim's.